I'm going to put on a light here.
Dr. Love, you're live.
Hello, and welcome to the Dr. Love Show. I'm Gabi Love, an international love coach and matchmaker based in New York City. This series has come upon when my investor mentor said it's time to start branding the Dr. Love name. I'm currently working on my PhD, and my focus for my dissertation is marital satisfaction and personality types. Through this process, I have been guided to my producer, Cooch. After 13 episodes, we will be pitched to television shows. Thank you all for being a part of my adventure. In conjunction with my topic of the night, which is LovveMath, math has always been a part of our love contracts. Since marriages began, there have been socialized and often standardized equations of giving and of receiving. In heterosexual unions, the man is expected to give so much, and the woman is expected to receive and also give so much. In homosexual couples, both parties also have their perceived formulations to contribute to the whole. Giving and receiving in LovveMath quantities may include the wedding ring, the wedding, the home, the quality time, the money, the gifts, the emotional support, the compliments, you name it. Healthy and happy couples, whether married or dating, have figured out their LovveMath quantities. Each equation suits both people equally when two people are involved, and that's the way it should be. To help me with this topic, I have three experts in the field of empowered love. My first guest is the lovely Heather Dawn, who's a yoga and meditation teacher and life coach based in Los Angeles. My second guest speaker is relationship coach Jeff Lawton of Your Relationship Architect, who's based in Colorado. My third guest is my lovely producer, Kujateli Kweli, also known as Kuj, who's an empowerment educator in Orlando. So let's dive right in, Heather. Do you think it's necessary to know yourself well before looking for a mate?
Oh my gosh, yes. I find that most people are coming from a place of who it is that they think they are or who they want to be. It's kind of like Facebook. Everybody's sort of posting this version of, this is who I should be. And it's lacking authenticity because it doesn't always show the shadow side. And it's not asking you to be like the news media where you just want like grim and brimstone, but there's a balance when you're approaching dating and relationships to really trying to become your authentic self and coming from that place. Now, I get the need to be seductive and sexy, and not necessarily revealing too much at first, which I think a lot of people do now in our day and age. But if you're looking for like long-lasting relationship and something that's long-term, you have to come from an authentic place. It just seems natural.
Sure. Thank you. Is it normal to have expectations of a partner? Some seem to even have a laundry list of what they're looking for in a relationship. So when is it too much?
Yes, you want to have expectations, but not so much so that they're strangling you and there's no room for anybody to be themselves in those expectations. There are some expectations that are non-negotiable. Like, for example, if you're a woman looking to have a baby and, you're in your late 30s, early to mid 40s, and you're dating a guy who's, late 40s, early 50s, divorced or not, and he's going, maybe, and I'm not sure. Having an expectation there, this guy's not for you, and it's okay. He doesn't want kids, no problem, move on. But if it's like, man, his breath really stinks, I can't stand the smell of his breath, that's a fixable problem. That's you being like, hey, honey, when's the last time you went to a dentist? Or, your gums okay? Those are fixable, especially if everything else is fine. So I think your expectations need to be realistic and not strangling you. If you find yourself in your 50s and 60s and you're saying you want to be married and I still haven't found the one, and your list is like this, newsflash, you are married to your list. You're actually not looking for a person. You're looking for an ideal. Her name might be Barbie. And you've become real safe in that world, in that list, and that's because love terrifies you. Now, by the way, that's okay, but that's going to require a little therapy before you continue to date. It's all good.
Mm-hmm. Yes, well, I think there's some therapy might be needed if we're dealing with a partner that may not be brushing his teeth on a regular basis. Hopefully none of us are at that level.
It's still a fixable problem.
Cooj, are you still there?
Yes. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but I can't see you.
I can't see either, Cooj.
Yes. I'm going to have to come out and go back in.
Yeah, come out of the closet here. What you gotta do?
Go ahead and ask Jeff his question, and I'll come out and come back in.
All right, let's move over to Jeff then. Jeff, who is our what I call mate expert, which is the married expert. Jeff, you've been married for how many years?
33.
33, so you qualified there. I'd say your wife as well qualified.
Yep.
So my question to you is, what equation do most people think is sure to guarantee a good relationship? Can you elaborate on what it is that people think it is and why that math doesn't usually work out?
Well, what I've found over the years is that kind of the way we're conditioned by the media, by, literature forever, happily ever after. So if there was a final outcome of the equation that doesn't really work, it would be probably something along the lines of, if I'm having fun, if I have a really strong sexual attraction, and we seem to like each other, or maybe even feel like we love each other, you add all those up, and we're going to have a long-term, happily ever after relationship. Problem is, it doesn't generally work out that way because, number one, all the ways that we're attracted to people biologically, all that fun hump like rabbit things that we do when we're first getting together with somebody, that wears off for everybody. That's partially a biological phenomena, and so because of that, we let those, energetic, emotional, sexual vibes, which are great. I loved it. I had a blast when I was in that stage, but that does not a long-term relationship make for the most part.
How do you get it back? How do you activate it? Because that's what I gear my programs to creating for couples. So
sure.
There has to be a formula, or you wouldn't have stayed with this woman for 33 years. How have you reactivated it?
Well, you have to keep in mind, well, I'll speak for myself. When I got together with my wife, I was 24, and she was 35. And so formula was something I barely could spell, much less think about in terms of a relationship. So I was one of those young men who knew that I'd found an amazing woman, and we had all those elements I said won't in and of themselves make for a long-term relationship. So the equation that I see work much more consistently is when you take compatibility, figuring out where there's real compatibility, kind of like what Heather was talking about, and you add in that discovering values and taking those two variables, to use mathematical language, if you take those, and then if those are going together okay, you add a third variable, which is then you consciously design the relationship as much as you can. Then that's much more likely to create a much better, healthy, more conscious relationship, along with recognizing that the general codependent model of at least Western relationship, we're all codependent, but a lot of us are way at the unhealthy end of the scale. So, there's probably another variable I could add in if I really wanted to have a long, complex equation that would include being able to really, as Heather was saying, know yourself inside and out so that you can really be interdependent with each other rather than the average model of being codependent.
There was if you don't mind me interjecting, there was a really great book called Attached. I don't know if you read that. Levine is the last name. I can't remember the first name of the author. But, you know, he really talked about this nature of codependency and people being like, oh, I don't want to get codependent on you. And that came out of, you know, addictive psychology and stuff that was dealing with that. But, you know, it's based on that study, and I'm sure you both know this as therapists, you know, where they did the test with the 3 different babies in the room where their mother left. Yep. And everybody is attached. It's not about being attached, it's how you're attached.
Exactly.
Right? Some people over-communicate out of anxiousness. Some people take that anxiousness and push you away. They're still attached, by the way. And then some people are able to communicate it and then go back to their daily lives. But there's not a single person on the planet that's not attached in some way.
No, you're right on.
The goal is to become secure attachment style.
Correct.
I noticed that in my work a lot. Now with the matchmaking, if I matchmake an anxious attachment style person with an avoidant attachment style person, it's a recipe for disaster. Very careful, and I'm starting to incorporate empirical testing measures for each contender, the femme and the men contenders, to make sure that I do not put anxious and an avoidant together. 80% of the people, fortunately, are secure attachments. And anyone that's currently dating online, obviously Jeff and his wife are both secure attachment, or they wouldn't be together for 33 years. The only way that an avoidant or an anxious stays connected with anyone for that long time period is if they connect with a secure attachment style person. So it's very important to look for that, ladies and gentlemen that are dating. Look for the secure attachment person. If you are a secure attachment, you can handle an anxious or an avoidant. They'll know that you're going to be in for some rocky territory.
And Gabi, I just would like to point out into what you're saying is that the studies have shown that most people in online dating are actually avoidant attachments. They get back in there and they're cycling through there. The higher statistics are avoidant attachments in online dating.
Are the avoidance, and anxious is up there too, because the
correct.
Attachments, they get in a relationship and they get out rather quickly, right?
Correct.
So
they get in and stay in.
Right.
So they don't need to be online dating.
Right. They're gone for a while.
Yep.
Which also ties back to what Heather said earlier about really having to know yourself, because a big part of what will keep anxious attachment in place is because you're going external to find your own internal sense of security.
Wow, great.
And then if you don't have that, you're hosed.
So true.
Jeff, let me ask you another question. What are the variables that you consider for the best possible equation of a conscious and juicy relationship?
Well, as I mentioned earlier, I think it's that combination of really understanding what you're compatible, you know, who you're compatible with, what kind of personality aspects you're compatible with. Because just liking somebody or being turned on by somebody isn't really compatibility. It's short-term compatibility at best. So exploring true compatibility, authentic compatibility, adding to that the other piece around values. Knowing, I'm shocked with all the people I've worked with over the last 20 years. It's amazing to me how many couples come that are, you know, trying to figure out whether to stay together or not. And when I bring up, you know, well, what do you each value? Most couples haven't even talked about it. So knowing what your values are up front and having an openness to recognizing that values are going to change over time. At 57, my values are not the same as they were when I was 24. Thank God. And then you add to that the whole piece about designing a relationship consciously, which is really part of what's in my upcoming book. So when you add design and compatibility and values and chemistry, that is that's valuable, then you're going to have a much greater likelihood of having a long-term success and having realistic expectations. Again, going back to something Heather shared earlier. There's expectations that are real, and there's a lot of expectations that are just a recipe for running into a brick wall at 500 miles an hour.
Well, I love your work. I resonated with your work so much. You call your work the relationship architect. So you're designing a relationship. I love architects. I love their work. And that is exactly how I also view relationships, and what my programs are all based on is the designing and the creating. Because if you can envision it and create it consciously, you're going to have a much better time than if you just get in there and just take
React.
Right? It's good to have a basis.
And you have to know how to build it right, because you can have a great design, but if you build it using cheap materials and you leave things out, that's not going to work. And then once you build it, you got to know how to maintain it.
Right.
Sustainability.
Yep, exactly.
Don't do cheap. I know that. Mother asked me to dump a guy a few years ago because he was too cheap. I said, my values are a little bit different than yours.
Not about that. It's hunter and gatherer.
All right, well, now that Cooge is alive and out of the closet there,
Hi, Cooge.
let's attack this perspective from a male's point of view. What's a fair love math formula for when men should expect sex?
Well, I like the rule of three. Now, I should say that, of course, there are some people that don't believe in premarital sex. In that case, the number is whenever you get married.
Yeah.
That was cold-blooded.
Sorry. Just saying.
In fact, I think she's pregnant for the second time.
But there's no premarital sex.
Yes.
Her and the Virgin Mary.
But she doesn't want to be judged. But for most of us, I think the rule of three is pretty effective strategy. The male fantasy, of course, is, love at first sight. But, given how dangerous love can be, it does pay to have a little discussion about, for example, one's sexual history. And especially if the man is paying, which is the old school way of doing it, 3 dates generally should be an economical expectation.
Cooge, I'm going to interject here if you don't mind. I was laughing at the usage of expect and sex in the same sentence. That kind of cracked me up. And then I love how you call yourself old school because you want to pay for a date. I think guys get confused. They think that, if I'm taking her out on the first or second or third date that, you have to go to like the hottest restaurant in town. It can just be a burger and fries too. But I think you're getting back into caveman days. A woman is looking for a hunter, and he really wants to know she can take care of the hearth. And so, when he picks up that tab, whether it's a $20 movie or, a $50 dinner, I think he's setting the stage for saying, hey, baby, I'm a hunter, just so you know. Okay? And then she sits there and goes, got it. How was your day, honey? But you're saying it's like there's some things that are just ingrained in our DNA. And again, it doesn't mean you have to come in with I spent $200 on dinner, kiss me, It doesn't have to be that. But I think that there's some things that just go back to our caveman days that really speak volumes even today, even if it is, oh, I got this really amazing steak at Trader Joe's in this saran wrap here, but I got it for you. Yep. Right? He's hunted. And she goes, great, let me cook it up. Let me cook it up. That needs to be established. And look, expecting sex is kind of silly. Sometimes I think you just sort of are in that moment and the first date is right. It's rare. But, at other days it takes a lot of time. Who knows? But I've often said to my yoga students, just so you know, that emotions, like love, are a funny thing. They're not eternal truths like pi, right? It's like emotions are temporary truths. So you got to be careful when you come from those places because they're moments of truth. They're not pi. It's not 3.14 where you can keep having it again and again and again. So it is a bit of a rocky, sort of tumultuous world, those emotions, love being one of them. Right?
Yeah, I think I need to add that to my pickup line package. Temporary truths. I like that idea.
They're not wrong. They're just moments of truth, man. It's like Ram Dass, be here now. Okay. I love you right now.
That the modern caveman is at Trader Joe's. That is
Only in Beverly Hills.
so true. Is there a difference between, to elaborate, Heather has gone off on it very well just now, is there a difference between the female math and the male math?
I think there is. In fact, the best illustration of this was when I read a book called Men Are from Mars, Women Are from Venus. And they have an example in there where a guy wins a lottery ticket for $1 million, brings it home, gives it to his wife, and he's thinking, wow, I got it. You know, this should last me about 6 months. And the next Friday, he comes home, and his wife says, you got anything for me? And he says, I got you a lot. I gave you $1 million last week. And she says, oh. But that's male math thinking. Whereas female math thinking would be, all he had to do is bring home a flower. And she would say, okay, that's 2. Give me $1 million last week and a flower this week. But guys have a tendency to put a price on things and think that they can run out that price, like you're making deposits in a bank based on amount rather than value.
Deed or deed. You're talking about deed. He's hunted. He's hunted. This is exactly what we were talking about. It's not that he came home with the biggest ox. He came home with the leg. Okay. He's still hunted, and she's going to be proud of her guy.
I noticed that women keep score a little bit too much, and men deduct points a little bit too much.
Ooh, good, Gabi. That was a good one.
This is I noticed this a lot in my practice.
Here's a whole nother show. In my practice, men are trying to get points, and a lot of women, at least the ones I've worked with, they are far more into the report card thing than the men I've worked with. You know, I don't think that really neither gender has a lock on that because we live in a culture that keeps score.
Right, and it's really a problem in relationships.
Totally.
Well, I have these my programs of LovveMath so people can put down on paper and see and visualize really what their realistic expectations are.
I think also just to add to what you were saying, Jeff and Gabi, and it's interesting and probably another show, as you would say, but when you say, when I get the vision of a woman keeping a report card on a man, I think, dude, you're his mom. You're not his wife, you're not his girlfriend, you just became his mother, and there's nothing even remotely sexy about that.
Right.
Dr. Love, speaking about that, how does the 50-50 formula work in your teaching?
Well, I think in the beginning of relationships, the 50-50 number that came up as we were devising the show, you had asked if I thought 50-50 was the fair formula. I don't think it's a fair formula. I think it's an unrealistic formula. I think couples should all evolve to a dance, a fluidity. Give 50, receive 50. Give 60, receive 40. Give 70, do 30, you know, and it should become a fluid dance. In the beginning of a relationship, I think that 50-50 is necessary, especially in the dating world today, the land of the Tinders, the Tinderellas. Two people have to show up at a date. Dating has gotten so out of control on our phones and on our iPads and on the computer that people have climax before they ever even have a date. And then they're over it, and it's gone, and they're on to somebody else. So in that love math formula. In dating, it's absolutely necessary. The man must give 50, the woman gives 50, or the woman and the woman give 50-50, or the man and the man have to give 50-50. They have to show up at the date, guys. We have to get off the phones, get off the iPads, get off the computer, and actually show up. Once the dating starts, I talked about this in the last episode, I think it's great for there to be a polarity happening of the masculine and the feminine energy. Doesn't matter which sex is which. And a lot of times in 2015 nowadays, women want to be the masculine energy. So I highly recommend that they find a man who wants to be the feminine energy in that relationship. And once those numbers or those persons are decided upon, I think it's great to let the man do 60 and the woman do 40. And the reason I'm kind of old school in this, because it sounds like an old school method, is because I just see it better for sexual attraction. I deal with so many women that are married or single that just want the guy to come up with a date. Why doesn't he do like this, why doesn't he do? And that becomes a big complaint I hear from a lot of feminine energy people in relationships in 2015. And that tells me that the man needs to do more, and she needs to be willing to receive more.
Good work.
Right?
Can I add,
that's the key.
Gabi, I just want to add to something you said. What you said is just spot on. The reception of the woman is really important, but you keyed on a couple of things, which is, one, you just mentioned about people showing up, meaning what I said earlier, you need to actually, who you are is based on your actions. I had referred you, as you remember, to one of my favorite relationship people, Esther Perel, who did Mating in Captivity. And she's real brilliant with that stuff, and she talks about a lot about the human imagination. It's what makes us different from all other animals and species. We can create eroticism in our head and all this stuff. And I find with a lot of this online dating stuff, we give out so much information in the writing, in the text, in the thing, that people literally live this relationship in their head because we have the ability to, and they don't need to show up.
They literally climax.
Literally, what you just said. It's so true. It was just spot on about that. That's why I said, which is like, know who you are, but you don't have to reveal so much that you stop people from showing up.
Right.
A little mystery is okay.
I always urge people on the Tinders, the Coffee Meets Bagel, the OkCupids, the eHarmonies, get to be in each other's presence as soon as possible. There's no need to get to know somebody for a super long time because, for me, it's inefficient. But really, the reality is that your body will know within 1 minute if there's that attraction there. So you could literally have a 2-3 month relationship by text or by email and meet the person, and your body goes, ooh, there's something off. And then the whole project just dies right there. So it's really inefficient. I always urge people to get in each other's presence as soon as possible.
Smart.
Dr. Love, just as a follow-up to that question, I'm sure in your practice you find that there are givers and there are takers. How do you advise them in the 50-50 concept?
Well, it's funny you use those terms. I was just telling someone today about a new empirical measure I'm bringing on to the matchmaking. I'm bringing on 3. One which will measure somebody's personality type, kind of like the Myers-Briggs test that are done in a lot of corporations. I find that is of value to matching couples.
No question.
Yeah, and one is the attachment style, empirical testing, so I know who's avoidant, who's anxious, and who's secure. And the third is a sexual strategy test, which is brand new, scientists just created. They're calling it the Sexy 7 measure, and I love that scientists are getting hip and cool in 2015. And this measure measures your sexual strategizing into one of 8 categories. And some are givers and some are takers. And that was the one that stood out to me the most. Sexually, in a sexual union, I want to put a giver with a taker. right, versus two givers. We're all naturally a certain sexual type in the bedroom. And in regards to LovveMath, I think that's a good way for all of us to look at our relationships. For example, if I'm being lazy in the bedroom, I want my boyfriend to then give a little bit more in that time. Like, be conscious of what your partner is. And this is what I say is good at the beginning of a relationship. The 50-50 must be there to me. Then let the masculine kind of weigh out on the higher as much as possible. And the goal is to become the perfect fluidity. You know, when Jeff is having an extra hard work day, a lot his wife will cater to his needs a little bit more, maybe make sure dinner is ready for him so he doesn't have to worry about that after a long day. Like, be conscious of what your partner needs, and that becomes the perfect LovveMath formula.
Okay, and and my final question, what is the formulas that you propose?
The mathematics of relationship and the equation
Yes.
to love. I love these new terms that I've been obsessing on for the last 4 months or so, and I've written several programs out of these ideas that I think are so amazing, and I've gotten some awesome feedback. And it's really what it is. The formula is attainable for all of us, for every single couple. It just takes some conscious work. That's exactly what Jeff's work is. That's why I went after Jeff. Jeff's work, and he's going to be working with me within my relationship with my partner. Jeff's work is called Your Relationship Architect. He helps people design their LovveMath, their formula of perfection, of creation. You know, none of us can be perfect, but perfection is always my goal. I know it's not attainable, but why can't I have it as my goal? I don't understand why. It makes I want perfection, right? That's my goal. And we can get close with a bit of consciousness. So the formula is absolutely unique to every single couple. All of you have heard me say, person A is a snowball, person B is a snowball. The goal is to intertwine these two snowballs into making a brand new snowball of perfection. So you have to get to know your partner. What time do you like to go to bed? When do you like to get up? Do you like to have coffee 5 minutes after you get up or 55 minutes in? Do you like anyone to talk to you for the first hour that you're awake? You know, little nuances like this that sound so detailed and ridiculous, when we can actually know that about our partner and consciously offer the ones that aren't stampeding on our desires or our non-negotiables, give that to your partner. Because you know what? If they like to stay in bed an extra 20 minutes than you, don't give them a hard time about that. That's just part of the equation of their life that they found that works for them their whole life. Why assume to take that away from our partners? So the perfect LovveMath, I think, can be very attained per couple. It takes conscious work. My work revolves around it, my LovveMath programs. I know Jeff's work, the relationship architect work, that designs relationships seems to be right up the same alley. And it just takes some conscious work of knowing that your partner, what they like, what they love, what they hate, and catering to the ones that don't stampede on what you like, what you love, and what you hate, and your non-negotiables.
Cool.
Okay, does anyone else have anything else to say today? Any final thoughts, Jeff, on LovveMath?
Well, going off of what you just shared, the thing that I would add to how you deal with knowing your partner's non-negotiables, which parenthetically is really helpful if you learn those at the beginning of the relationship, which in my experience a lot of couples don't, because they're more interested in getting laid sometimes than they are about really getting down to that depth. But the one thing that I would add to what you shared, Gabi, is it's really critical what the come from is with all, like you could take all those formulas, but there's this intangible variable called, that I heard once referred to as your come from. Where are you coming from? When you're doing that for your partner, are you doing it because you love them so much that you just have this natural thing that tends to come with love, where you want to give because of that love? And to me, the risk of being too formulaic would be that it easily goes into shadow territory of scorekeeping and manipulation, and that you're doing it because you've got your own stuff that says, well, if I'm not giving X percent, then he or she's going to realize I'm not a very good partner. So it's important to know the shadow aspects of everything as it is to know all that yummy, good, juicy stuff.
I like that. Yes.
Jeff, would you give us your website on your bottom thirds, please?
Absolutely.
In case anybody wants to get in contact with you. Thank you. And the same thing with you, Heather.
I thought I was clicked on there. It should.
Okay, you're good. You're good.
All right.
On the topic tonight.
What?
Do you have any last thoughts on the topic tonight?
Oh, I don't know. I still keep thinking about Ram Dass. Be here now.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
Can't go wrong with that.
It's one thing to have a goal. It's another thing to live in that goal. You know, it's like just stay present. There's less anxiety in the present, and there's no lamenting about the past. You know, so just get present, get current.
I agree. I have found that the relationships that do work the best have a plan and a strategy, and preferably, like what Jeff said, if conscious people get together now from the beginning and go through it, like you said, when you were 24, but you figured it out. I'm not saying it can't be figured out, but the more couples are going into their relationships with conscious effort, with goals in mind, and with knowing each other's non-negotiables, and staying in the present, like Heather is saying, and not holding on to beefs of the past, and really just keeping a goal in mind and moving forward consciously towards that at all times. It's amazing to me the beauty of relationships that are going on in 2015 of conscious love is just amazing. Well, I want to thank you all for being with me here tonight. Thank you so much, and I want to thank.
Well, don't I get to make a final comment?
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry.
Let me just say this. I think when you look at the formulas, one of the most important things to keep in mind is something called balance. I was doing a workshop once, and the wife was saying, "Well, he thinks he's always right," and he says, "And what's the problem with that?" And of course, the problem, what he wasn't hearing, was she doesn't think he's always right. And essentially, if you're in a relationship, it doesn't pay to win 9 out of 10 arguments, or to win most of the time. You've got to also achieve balance. It's what you said earlier, Heather, when you said, do you want a relationship or do you want to be right all the time?
Oh, that's right, yeah. Do you want to be right or do you want to be loved?
You said that better than I said it. You have to seek balance, not righteousness. Is a part of formulation for happiness, in my opinion.
Yeah, I don't think there's room for righteousness at all in any relationship. That's been my experience. Definitely not. Thank you for sharing that. And I want to thank you so much, Cooge, for being my director and my co-host here tonight. And Heather, lovely Heather Dawn, always a pleasure to have you in my life in any way, shape, or form. Thank you.
Always loved you, Gabi. Thank you.
Jeff, a new coach whose work has inspired me greatly. It's been so great to get to know you just in this past week. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I'd like to thank all of our viewers, your viewers, Heather's viewers, Coop's viewers, my viewers that are here now, and anyone can watch at a later time always. All of the episodes are available at GabiLove.com. And I think that's all I wanted to say tonight. Please join us again next time, next month. And as always, in love, Gabi.
Gabi, would you do one final thing for me? Would you show us your cups?
Oh, my new manufacturer cups.
Yeah, put them over on the screen so I can take a picture of them.
Love. My manufacturer just made these. Love. They'll be for sale soon. On the site. Here's another version. This one's the Valentine's version.
Mhm.
And there's a few more in my kitchen, so he did a great job.
Okay, well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye,
Thank
guys.
you.
Bye.